Today we're going to talk about perception, which is chapter 6 in the David Myer's 8th edition textbook. So again, remember these beginning slides are just a summary, just a real quick outline of what the book is talking about. So we're going to look at selective attention, perceptual illusions, perceptual organization with form perception, motion perception, perceptual constancy. We'll look at perceptual interpretations, and we'll look at the last one, is there extrasensory perception, or ESP. So perception is just the way that we organize sensory information into something that's meaningful for us. So remember, with sensation, we're taking in some sort of sense, and then with perception, we're going to interpret it and make some sort of meaning out of the senses that we obtained. So selective attention. What selective attention means is that we pay attention to only one aspect of the object at a time. So right now, if you're looking up other stuff on YouTube, or if you're listening to music or whatever else is going on at your home, your attention might be focused on that instead of focusing on the study material for your upcoming AP exam or for your upcoming test. Inattentional blindness. So what inattentional blindness means is that it's your inability to see an object or a person in our midst because it's not intentional. That's why it's called inattentional blindness. Like right here where you see this little gorilla, what happened was they were so busy playing the pass the ball around game that they were so worried about missing it that this little guy just danced in here, danced his way out, and people didn't even notice because all they were worried about was getting the ball passed to them. So here's some other inattentional, like change blindness stuff. So the change blindness is a form of inattentional blindness in which 2/3 of individuals giving direction fail to notice a change in the individual that was asking for directions. So in this incident, what happens is this person didn't notice that there's been a change up actually in the person that they're giving directions to. Changed it, didn't even notice that it was a different guy. Perceptual illusions. Illusions provide good examples in understanding how perception is going to be organized. So when you're studying faulty perception, it's as important as studying other perceptual phenomena. So we look at A, B, B, C. Are they the same line? AB is actually longer than BC. Like this tall arch. So in this picture, the vertical dimension of the arch looks longer than the horizontal. So when we look at vertical, okay, and then versus horizontal, the vertical actually looks a little bit longer. But here we go. Same dimensions. The illusion of the worm. So if you look at the figure on the right, it gives the illusion of this blue kind of hazy thing right there, okay? When it's nothing else but blue lines that are identical to the figure on the left. So blue lines, they're the same. 3D illusion. It takes a great deal of effort to perceive this figure in 2 dimensions. See, this is a flat surface. But because it has this nice wavy lines, it makes us think that this is 3D or 3-dimensional. So perceptual organization, there's visual capture. When vision competes with any other sense, vision wins out. So people see things more than they hear or do any of the other senses, because whenever you have like vision and you have hearing and you have taste and touch, all these different senses competing, people will remember what they see more than they will remember all the other senses. So how do we form meaningful perceptions from sensory information? So we're going to look at Gestalt. And Gestalt psychologists look at the whole, and what they look at is like, it shows that a figure formed a whole different than its surroundings, so like figure ground images. So here we go, figure ground. Organization of the visual field into objects, figures that stand out from the background. So it could be people running down steps, it could be arrows. So this would be a figure ground image. Grouping, when we look at grouping, we look at proximity, things being close. We look at similarity, things like triangles, circles, they're similar. Continuity or continuity, there we go. Connectedness, connect the dots. So grouping and reality, so although grouping principles usually help us construct reality, they may also lead us astray. So here we go, we've built this nice doghouse. But this is really what the doghouse looks like. Take out all that other stuff that's blocking. See, there you go. And so that's what the house would really look like. Depth perception. This is that baby visual cliff. So what happens is depth perception enables us to judge distances. So Gibson and Walk, they're two psychologists, they suggest that human infants at the crawling age, they have depth perception. So even newborn animals will show depth perception. So this is the visual cliff. Here's the little glass thing. Now please understand there's a glass thing there. We're not going to let a baby fall and kill itself. So there's a little glass thing, and they just put the carpet or the wallpaper design down here. And so the baby, comes to the cliff. Not going over there, Mommy. That is dangerous. And so now the baby won't climb over this because they perceive this to have depth, and they will plummet to their death. This is like survival, too. So retinal disparity. This is that finger sausage. So images from two different eyes do differ. And try looking at your two index fingers when pointing them towards each other, ½ an inch apart, about 5 inches directly in front of your eyes. You're going to see this nice little finger sausage, if you can actually do this and measure it appropriately. Binocular cues, this uses two eyes, that's why it's called binocular. And binocular cue would be like convergence. And convergence is when two eyes move inward towards the nose. Two eyes moving inward because the object is getting closer to them. When the object is far away, our eyes don't look into each other very much. Relative size. So if two objects are similar in size, we perceive that one casts a smaller retinal image to be further away. This looks further away, this is closer up, further away, closer up. Another monocular cue is interposition. So here's this little painting. So objects that obscure, block other objects tend to be perceived as closer. So this tree looks closer than this horse flank. This person looks closer than this tree. Horse closer than tree. That's all we're talking about. So relative clarity, so like sometimes when you're driving in the morning and there's fog, objects that are clear are the ones that are closer up to you because there's more light there. And the objects that are far away, they're hazy because there's less light there. Look at that. So texture gradient, this is indistinct fine texture signaling increasing distance. Nice, big, close to you. Far, far, far away. Closer, closer, close, far away. Relative height. We perceive objects that are higher in our field of vision to be farther away than those that are lower. So when we look at relative height, we look at this. So we look at something being farther away if it's lower, and something closer to us if it's higher up. Change the image. Okay, it looks different to you. Relative motion is another monocular cue. So objects closer to a fixation point move faster in an opposing direction than those objects that are farther away from a fixation point, moving slower in the same direction. So you're on the bus or you're on a train. Here's your fixation point. It's going to appear to be going faster because of this fixation point that you're stuck at. Linear perspective, parallel lines such as like railroad tracks appear to converge in the distance. So they tend to go closer together, converge right down here. The greater their distance is perceived. So light and shadow, nearby objects reflect more light into our eyes than more distant objects. So given two identical objects, the dimmer one appears to be further away. Further away, close, far away. Change it, it looks different to you. Motion perception, objects traveling towards us grow in size, and those objects moving away from us, they tend to shrink in size. So the same is true whenever we're moving around. Here's the ball, it's coming at you. Okay. See, let's do it again. Comes close to you, then it moves away. As it comes closer to you, that's when it's coming close to you, and that's why it's becoming large. But we know that the object is always the same size. It's not growing. So the pi phenomenon, and pi phenomenon is like when lights flash, it almost appears like there's motion. And that's like those neon signs that say, welcome to Zorba's, or something like that. So those neon signs then use this principle to create motion principle, or perception. So two lights flashing one after another. There wasn't really any motion going on. It was just two light points jumping from one to another. It's like the Christmas, the holiday lights, the chaser ones. It's the same thing. So perceptual constancy, this is perceiving objects as unchanging even as illumination and retinal images change. So perception constancy includes constancy of shape and size. So you know that this door is the same as this door, is the same as this door. The shape is stay the same, so is the size. Size constancy, so stable size perception amid changing size of the stimuli. So size is the same, it's just a different car color, but of course this is a car that's for normal people, so is this, it's just further away. Size distance relationship, the distant monster below and to the left and the top red bar, the below right, appear bigger because of distant cues. So distant cues are things that help us figure out what is actually closer to us. And remember, when the lines are converging, they are actually further away. This is Ames's room, and so you should know this size distance relationship. So both girls in the room, they're of the same height, but we perceive them to be of different heights as they stand in two corners of the room. And so here's how the Ames room actually worked. So he just took the wall and pushed it up, like angled it. So this person looks smaller in comparison to this person, even though those girls were the same height. So the Ames room is designed to demonstrate the size distance delusion. Lightness constancy, the lightness, the color, the brightness of square A and B are the same. They're the same. It just makes it look different because of the way of shadows. Same thing. So color constancy. So we looked at this when we looked at chapter 5 in sensation. Perceiving familiar objects as having consistent color even when changing illumination filters the light reflected by the object. So you see how it changed. Can't and Locke. Can't maintain that knowledge comes from our inborn ways of organizing sensory experiences, and Locke says that, well, he argued that we learn to perceive the world through our experiences. So Locke experiences, this guy is saying it's inborn. So Kant, inborn, Locke is experiences. So restored vision, you know, as you get older, you get cataract. So cataract surgery, blind adults are able to regain their sight. These individuals could look at the difference between the figure and the ground relationships, but they had a hard time distinguishing a circle and a triangle. Facial recognition, after blind adults regained vision, regained their sight, they were able to recognize distinct features, but were not unable to recognize faces. Now, normal observers, they also show difficulty in recognizing, in facial recognition, when the lower half of the picture changes. So it always reminds me of the Ugly Betty intro, with the faces changing. Change that lower half, and people have a harder time recognizing it. So sensory deprivation. So kittens raised without exposure to horizontal lines, they later had a difficult time perceiving those horizontal lines as bars. So put the little cone on the baby cat, on the kitten, and they can't tell these lines. And remember, it's psychology. It's okay to experiment with animals as long as you're going to gain new information. So perceptual adaptation, so visual ability to adjust to and artificially displace visual fields. So these prism glasses, 3D glasses. So perceptual set, you look at this, this. Okay, do you not see something? We're the same thing. So a mental predisposition to perceive one thing and are not another, and what you see in the center picture is influenced by flanking. So we're going to look at it again. See, looks like a jazz player. Let's fill all this in. A little bit of shade here. Looks like a female. Now, it could be a jazz player, or it could look like a female, whichever one you want. Other examples of perceptual set. So, what is this? Loch Ness Monster. Or it could be a tree trunk. Or this could be flying saucer. Or it could just be clouds. It's whatever you want. Schemas. Schemas are concepts that organize and interpret unfamiliar information. Remember, this is with Piaget. So children's schemas represent reality as well as their ability to represent what they see. So this child is Adam and Eve, and there's a little snake, and there's some grass, and it looks like they may have tried to write their name there. That's a tree, and that's Adam, and that's Eve, and this is what the kids see the world as.